Thank you for tuning in to another episode of ESPN Milwaukee's Double Coverage with Alex Petakas and David Rantisi going over the Week 10 matchup for the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears. Game is being played at Lambeau, but Alex, first, how's it going?
It's going good.
Okay.
How about you?
Just trying to see, how you've been. It's been a little while since we've had you on.
It has.
Going into this matchup, the Packers are 5-3, the Chicago Bears are 3-5, and the Bears have yet to win a game at home. So all their victories have come on the road. That statistic specifically, does that scare you at all that they're going into Lambeau this week?
No, because Jay Cutler's never won at Lambeau Field. I don't care what he's done away from home this year. He's never won at Lambeau, and he was only beaten the Packers once. Even those things don't have me that confident. I just think the Packers are a lot better than the Bears right now, and I think that you could count on Jay Cutler to turn the football over, and the recipe for Packers victories this year has been their defense taking the ball away, giving Rodgers extra possessions, and then the offense is able to maintain and build and maintain a pretty significant lead on their opponents to make the run game irrelevant. That's got to be the blueprint again Sunday.
To make the Bears' run game irrelevant.
Right.
Here's the thing, because you say that and you say, Jay Cutler's going to be Jay Cutler and all that jazz. Before the show, we kind of spoke about, if you could have one player on your team from the Bears roster. If I had to answer that question, I'd say Matt Forte.
I'd say Forte in a landslide, yeah.
And he's a guy who can run the ball, but also catch balls out of the backfield and make big plays through the passing game. So you're saying the Packers obviously need to stop Matt Forte.
Yeah, but I think the way that they stop him is by scoring a lot. Because I think that's the way they've stopped other running backs this year, because their run defense is the worst in the league, and they haven't, even in games where they've played okay, it hasn't been because they've played okay. It's been because the Packers receive the opening kickoff, go down the field, score. They get a stop. They get the ball back. They go score. All of a sudden it's 14-0, and the other team is going to be more prone to passing. And I think the recipe is eliminate Matt Forte on the ground. He's going to get his in the air. Like Forte might have 100 receiving yards, so be it. But they may not be able to control the game with their run game and with Matt Forte if the Packers play offense well. And that to me is the way that you stop Forte and the running attack. And I think that just comes from the Packers passing game being on. If they want to establish a run, great, but if they move the ball effectively and score points, which all hinges on Rodgers and the way that the passing game works, then I think they put their defense in a good place to succeed.
I totally agree, but if you want to read off some stats here, Matt Forte, 562 yards on the ground, 490 in the pass game. So he's been a dual threat for sure this year.
Right, but they can live with. They might be able to live with that though. Like, and here's why. If Cutler's going to go back and throw like 45 passes, right, or he's going to have close to 50 pass attempts, which I don't know if he will or won't, but I'm betting if they're trailing on the scoreboard, he's going to be throwing the ball a lot. If he does, and Matt Forte has a lot of grabs and a lot of yards, that's fine as long as it's that underneath stuff, because the idea is to make him settle for that, because Alshon Jeffrey and Brandon Marshall are non-entities, right? Like if your corners are playing well and your secondary is playing well, Matt Forte is going to get a lot of checkdowns because there's going to be nowhere else to go with the football. And I don't know how you stop that, because your linebackers aren't really quick enough to stick with him and eliminate him from the game. And who has eliminated him from the passing game so far this year? It's not an easy thing to do.
No.
So I'm more worried about eliminating Marshall, eliminating Alshon Jeffrey, eliminating the deep ball to their wide receiving targets, and you could have the underneath stuff to Forte. The bend don't break type defense with that.
It's funny that you say, you're worried about Brandon Marshall, because here's the thing. I believe, from what I've heard, Sam Shields is coming back this week?
Yeah, he is.
So with some of the statistics, you look back at the history of the matchup between Sam Shields and Brandon Marshall. Even though Sam Shields is a more of an undersized guy, Brandon Marshall obviously has the size, the athleticism. Brandon Marshall is fourth on that team in receiving. And he hasn't really had that season that everyone thought he would have before, in preseason. Everyone said, oh, Jay Cutler and company are going to go to the Super Bowl. We heard it. We saw it. And as a Packer fan, you're like, this is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But Brandon Marshall has not had the season that everyone thought he would have. 34 receptions for 384 yards and 5 touchdowns. He's got the touchdowns, yards not necessarily up there, and it's halfway point of the season. I think Brandon Marshall might yet again, be a non-factor in this game. With Sam Shields coming back, with the history that Sam Shields has covering Brandon Marshall, and with the fact that Brandon Marshall hasn't really seen a lot of success that we thought he would have as an NFL, community, I don't know if he's going to have, a huge game. Last time we played the Bears, it was Martellus Bennett. It was the Martellus Bennett show.
Right.
And he was the first tight end, Chicago Bear tight end since Mike Ditka, I believe it was, to have 100 yards receiving in a game over the Green Bay Packers. So, if it was me, I would potentially game plan, because you were talking to Gabe Neitzel earlier today, and you're saying how you're comparing the receiving course. You're saying Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb, you probably wouldn't take them over Alshon Jeffrey and Brandon Marshall.
Yeah.
I kind of want to disagree.
Okay.
Jordy Nelson is probably the most underrated wide receiver in the league that can be, you can make an argument that he's a top 5 receiver right now in the NFL.
No, he is. I agree. I totally agree.
Brandon Marshall is not.
No, he's not. But I think, if you had Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey on the Packers, I think their numbers are different. And
because
I think
of Aaron Rodgers?
Because Aaron Rodgers, because of the system, because there are more threats, because Rodgers spreads the ball around, and there's more to focus on for all of those reasons. And again, I'm not saying if Jordy Nelson went to the Bears that he wouldn't be productive, because he would. I just think he's good enough like that no matter where he goes, he's going to be really, really good. He's the best receiver on their team. He's one of the best receivers in the league. But as a 1-2, Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey would be pretty formidable as well. And Martellus Bennett mixed in there. I think their skill position crop is a little bit more appealing than the Packers right now. So they're 1-2. You're splitting hairs there. The Packers 1-2 statistically might be the best in the league. I think the Bears, if they were on the Packers, would be, Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey could be the best, statistically, and Marshall might have a field day with Rodgers throwing to him. Who knows? But collectively as a group, the Bears have better skill position players outside of the quarterback position, I would say.
No, I agree. As an overall group, yeah, they would.
Right, because Forte is better than Lacy.
Right now, yes.
And he's more well-rounded. Like, to me, he's just a much more valuable player than Eddie Lacy is at this juncture.
The Packers have no one at tight end.
Right. And then Martellus Bennett, one of the better tight ends in terms of pass-catching threats in the league, and the Packers don't have they just don't really have one.
Lot,
right, exactly.
Didn't we have a discussion about this? Maybe it was about a month ago. We went through every roster, every team in the NFL thinking, where does the Packers rank in tight end rankings?
How many teams have a better group of tight ends than the Packers?
Didn't we come to the conclusion the Packers are probably in the bottom 30?
They were like 30 or
31 or something like that?
Yeah.
There's no one there.
Right. There's no one. I agree. And there's some teams that have got... basically what we did is went to other teams and said, is their tight end better than any tight end on the Packers? And would you take him?
We probably said yes 29 to 30 times.
Right, exactly.
So... I don't know if there's something to say about Ted Thompson looking into the future and potentially drafting another guy, or Richard Rodgers might be that guy. But
he took him in the 3rd round.
They're waiting for him to develop.
You'd hope that he can be that guy. That's a pretty significant investment, right? Look, it might take a long time to catch on, but he hasn't really shown many glimpses as a 3rd round pick. So they could invest in one next year again, and no one would blame them. I don't think.
Either way, the Bears win that position ranking between the two teams easily.
No doubt.
But when it comes down to it, okay, we're sitting here discussing the game, and the Packers have to win this game. The Bears are struggling. They're 3-5. The game is being played in Lambeau. Aaron Rodgers is coming off of a bye. All the arrows point towards the Packers winning this game.
Right.
And yeah, you can argue the Bears are also coming off of a bye. That's fine.
They're 7-1 off the bye as well, just like the Packers. And under Mike McCarthy, in that same time frame in the last 8 years, 7-1 for the Bears, 7-1 for the Packers, coming off the bye.
Someone's going to be 7-2.
Right, exactly. Something's got to give in that regard. But yes, it seems obvious that Green Bay would win, and it seems that if they were to lose this game, you'd be like, how on earth do you manage to lose this one? Everything is in your favor. History is in your favor. Health is in your favor. Everything.
My money would be not on Jay Cutler, but on Matt Forte.
Mm-hmm.
If the Packers lose this game, it would be a combination of Matt Forte playing lights out and the Packers' run defense or defense as a whole just not being able to stop
Right,
him.
exactly. And how much of it, too, would be Jay Cutler not turning the ball over?
Huge.
He doesn't have to go out on Sunday and light it up.
No.
He just has to go out and not make those couple of bonehead throws he makes every time he plays the Packers and just hand over possessions. Because if he doesn't do that, then matchup-wise, like, should Chicago be able to move the ball? I'm not saying, like, at will, but will they be able to move the ball? Yeah, you'd think so with the run game. And will they get a stop here and there? Probably. You know, the Packers' offense has gone through lulls at times this year. It's all about whether or not Cutler's going to be Cutler. You know, if he's going to throw those couple of interceptions in his own territory or that get run back, that break the back of the Bears and basically put them in a spot that they can't recover because you give Rodgers extra possessions, it's pedal to the metal, and then, you know, next thing you know, a 14-point deficit turns into a 28-point deficit.
Yeah.
So that's what it's about. But, yeah, I mean, a huge part of that would be limiting the amount of times you have to rely on him by having success with Matt Forte on the ground.
I think if the Bears were smart, as crazy as this might sound with all the weapons that they have, taking advantage of the poor Packers run defense that they've had all season, if they were smart, they would probably game plan to run the ball a bit more than they have all season long.
Yeah.
And see where that gets them. And not put the ball in the hands of Cutler to make mistakes.
Until they have to, yeah.
Exactly. And that's
and then, you know, use play action to your advantage. If you're getting 8 yards, you know, chunks of 8 yards here and there, which many teams have done so far against the Packers this year, then all of a sudden maybe, just maybe, Clinton Dix is peeking in the backfield because he flies up to support and run all the time. You see him in the backfield a number of times, and then maybe you pop one to Brandon Marshall or Alshon Jeffrey, you know, deep up the sideline. Now they got to win their matchups too, which is a tough one because I love playing the Bears because I love, like, you always speculate, oh, who's going to cover Calvin Johnson when you're playing Detroit, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love playing the Bears because no matter where you look, whether it's Sam Shields on Alshon Jeffrey or Brandon Marshall or Tremont Williams on Alshon Jeffrey or Brandon Marshall, it's a great one-on-one, like, challenge for your corners. And I love watching those guys go to work and seeing what they can do. So, yeah, I mean, I love playing the Bears. It's harder to cover 2 than I think it is to cover 1, although Golden Tate's coming on now. So next time they play the Lions, that might be a dual-headed receiving threat for Detroit, and we might be saying the same thing.
That might be a game that's played for the division crown.
Yeah, no doubt.
17. But that's all we have for you guys today on Double Coverage. Before we head out, Alex, you're predicting a Packers win?
Yeah, I am. I say Packers to the tune of 34-17.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
34?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd say maybe like a 28-17 game.
Okay.
Maybe one less touchdown.
All right.
So we're both predicting a Packers win.
34-17 game that's like close for the majority of it, I would say.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
It's like 27-17, and the Bears have the ball, and then it's a 2-possession ball game in the second half, but then they turn it over. And, you know, I'm not saying it's like just a boat race from the start, but yeah, I think a convincing Packer victory. I think they'll cover the 7.5-point spread.
Awesome. That is Alex Petakas. I'm David Rantisi for ESPN's Double Coverage. That's all we got for you guys this week. We're out.